Now, motivation is something that a lot of us think about all the time. Like, I'm feeling really motivated to do something, or man, I'm really not feeling motivated to do something that I think I want to do.
Right.
So it really helps to understand, when we're talking about motivation, what are we really talking about?
Okay.
What are we dealing with? And so if you go back to the very basic neurological model that we talked about earlier, the hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain.
Okay.
Motivation is kind of what links the midbrain, which is all the emotion and the mental simulation and all that stuff, to the physiological, this is what I'm doing now, hindbrain.
Okay.
Okay? And motivation, you can actually break it down into two very basic drives.
Okay.
Okay? The drive to move towards something that is attractive, and the desire to move away from something that's not.
Sure. Okay.
That you don't want, or that is not attractive, or is dangerous or scary or whatever.
Yeah.
And pretty much every impulse that we have can be broken down into, are you moving towards something, or are you moving away from it?
Okay. Makes sense.
Now, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, the impulse to move away from something is typically more urgent or more important than the drive to move towards something.
Really?
Yes. And the models are called loss aversion and threat lockdown, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But just when you're thinking about motivation, you can always break it down into that two structures. What are you trying to move away from? What are you trying to move towards? And for what you're trying to move away from, that often takes priority. And we'll talk about that in a moment.
That seems a little bit odd when you think about the fact that people are normally more motivated by positive things.
Positive motivation is often more important in that will actually get us towards what we want.
Right.
As we'll talk about in loss aversion and threat lockdown, the things we want to move away from,
right?
A guy who's threatening you with a baseball bat,
okay,
is typically more urgent.
Okay.
And your brain treats as a priority.
Okay.
Versus, I would like to move towards, a vacation in Tahiti.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it's more like
yes,
immediate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Remember, we're dealing with this at a very
right.
deep psychological level. I mean,
okay.
These are things that have evolved to keep us around.
Right, so run away from the tiger instead of like stir your soup or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So motivation, you can always break it down into one of the two, and that moving away from something that's bad almost always takes priority from a neurological standpoint over moving towards something that is good. That's motivation.